Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about globalism and whether or not it's evil. If you've never heard of globalism, or if you think it's a conspiracy theory or something, then you should probably do a little bit of research on it because it's happening. It's just a fact. There's no question about it. Not if you look into it just even briefly. But globalism is basically the idea that they want to have one world economy, which they pretty much already have, one world government, which is what they're working on, and one world population. And if you look at it with common sense, it's not difficult to see why. Right? I've talked about this a couple of times before, but everything in the universe basically runs through from the smallest to the biggest. The same principles apply at every level. That's what I'm trying to say. So, life needs certain things at the simplest, one cell organism to all the way up to people. Life needs the same thing. It's the same thing with the principles of economics, from a person to person barter deal up to global corporations. The same principles apply. And it's just and when you look at stuff with common sense and you see these things, then there's just no doubt what's going on. You can't doubt it. And as an example, if I was a farmer, if I was a cattle rancher, and I had 3 pastures with 5 cows in each, and I wanted to milk my cows, I would go out and get the 5 cows, bring them into the milk shed, milk them, take them back, go into the next pasture, get 5 cows, and so on, right? That would be a pain in the ass. A cow would be more likely to get loose every time I went and opened one of the gates, and it would just be a pain in the ass dealing with 3 different sets of 5 cows. But if I herd all of the cows into one small pasture, they would be a lot easier for me to organize and control. I would just make one trip, herd them all in one trip, run them all through the chute, milk them all at the same time. Then I could spend the rest of my day, doing whatever I wanted. Now the cows in the smaller pasture, they would have less freedom, less grass, less water. They would have, less room to move. They would not be as happy. And when you're looking at it like that's the same principle. That's globalism. The people in charge want to make it easier to control their cattle. I mean, it's that simple. And they want them all. They want to organize everything and put everything in a nice, neat pile and herd everybody. And to do that, people are different, though. People are more complicated. People have all these ideas and customs and culture. So you've got to mix all that up with immigration. So that's why we see a lot of what we see, because they're trying to assimilate all these different populations together so that they can control them. Period. We're easier to control that way. And it's difficult in Western civilization because we have this inherent idea of individuality. All of us, we're individuals. We're not solely part of a bigger thing, right? We're individuals who choose to be part of a bigger community. And in the other way around, in other cultures and stuff, you are just a cog in the machine. In these communist cultures or communist governments and these other cultures, you as an individual are completely meaningless. And you can't. That's one thing I don't understand about the leftists and the woke mob. If they tried to do the same shit they're doing, if they tried it in another country with another culture, they would be imprisoned, stoned, killed. They wouldn't be able to do it. But they're so twisted that they want that other rule, that other culture in our country, right? In America or in Australia or wherever. And it's Western civilization. And that's a thing that I think needs to be pointed out over and over again, that it's Western civilization. We're all in this together. All of us are being attacked in the same way. And when you open your eyes to that and you realize that this is a global thing. This isn't just some a woke minority of dipshits attacking America. This is a world agenda. And is it evil? Well, if I took the cows and I moved them all into one pen, if they had enough consciousness and intelligence, they might view that as evil, right? If I'm taking away their freedom, taking away the extra food they had, taking away the extra rights they had or whatever, and putting them all in one small pen and making them all give me their milk together, then those cows might think I was evil, especially if I, the farmer, the ranch owner, just lived up in the house and I paid someone to do it. So they never saw the owner of the ranch, right? They just saw the hired hand, the face of it. And that's more like what's happening. The actual people who are making the decisions and doing this stuff are out of sight. We never get to see them. So to us, it's evil. To the people being manipulated, the people being hurt by these decisions, it's evil. Now, does one group of or individuals or one individual, should they have the right to decide what is best for the rest of us? That's where, again, in Western civilization, we don't believe that. We don't believe that someone is better than us and they get to choose what is right or wrong for us. We should decide that for ourselves because we are individuals with God-given rights. Now, with the cattle analogy, God gave us those cattle to husband, to take care of, to use as our basically slave animals, use for food, use for work, use whatever we use the cattle however we want. Now, if we abuse the cattle and are hateful toward them, then that is a reflection on us, and we will face that during judgment. But if we are kind to them and we husband them in the way that word is meant to be used, then we will be in good standing spiritually. Now, we were not given to someone else to be husbanded, to be controlled, to be used as cattle. We were not given to someone else like that. No one on this planet has the God-given right to use me as cattle, to use me for profit or to further their agenda. No one has that right. Only me. And that is at the heart of Western civilization ideology. And even the woke left, they believe that. That is where they're messed up. They believe that. But the propaganda, the media, the government have them confused and fighting on the wrong side. They have them thinking that everyone who loves freedom and individuality and wants every single human on earth to be free, they believe that we're Nazis, that we're against freedom and all this other stuff. So But you can see that playing out, how they word that stuff in the media. If you ever pay attention to that left media at all, they they constantly call us racist, bigots, hateful. We're all about hate. I don't hate anyone. And I'm sure that most of you out there listening to me right now don't hate anyone either. But we're labeled as hateful. We hate. You hear that word all the time. Hate, bigot, racist, transphobe, sexist, misogynist. And that's just part of the things that they call us, right? The only thing we call them is lunatics because they're calling us all this stuff. But the reality is that there is a globalist agenda, but it's not as, I don't know what you want to call it, as conspiracy theorist. It's not as weird and far-fetched as everyone would have you believe. It's more like they just see us as cattle, and they're moving things to make their lives easier, to make things more efficient, to make things better from their point of view, because they're multi-trillionaires, and their point of view, it's complete. They might as well be aliens on this planet compared to the rest of us, because they don't live the same life we do. They don't even know what it's like to be a regular human being. They have no clue, no idea. They don't know what money is about because they don't spend it. You just have to put yourself in their shoes, and if you have a problem doing that, then you're going to have difficulty understanding where they're coming from, because they don't see themselves as evil. They don't see themselves as diabolical and demonic and all this stuff. Now, they promote that stuff. That stuff gets promoted throughout society, because that's an attention grabber. All the demons and all this stuff that grabs people's attention. But also, a lot of the population look away from that because it sounds stupid. That sounds ridiculous. We're being manipulated by aliens, by demons, and all this other stuff that you hear, all these conspiracy theories. One of them might be true. I'm not saying that. I don't know. But to most of normal thinking people, it just sounds like ridiculous horseshit, and that's why it doesn't get any traction. If we think about it with common sense, that they are just manipulating things to make things easier for themselves, like everybody does all over the world every day, just on different levels of the scale, well, that makes sense. They don't even think they're evil. They don't even see us dying in war as a thing. You got to send 10,000 more troops over there because the first 10,000 were slaughtered. All right, whatever. How's my stock doing in nitriol or whatever? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even register. They don't go to war. They've never fought in a war. None of their ancestors have fought in a war. They're not worried about war. That's never been a concern. They won't get drafted. None of that bothers them. They're completely out of touch because they've been raised on a financial level above the rest of us. Only on a financial level. Now, on a human level, on a spiritual level, they're probably below us in a lot of those. But our world runs on a financial system. iPhones and Xboxes and Microsoft and Sony and PlayStation and all this stuff, you know what I mean? Amazon, if you can't get stuff ordered anytime you don't have a box waiting outside when you get home is a bad day now, because you don't get to open, it's not Christmas Day, you don't get to open a box from Amazon. That's programming done by design. And Amazon has done that. and facilitated that, because in the same way that the globalists are doing their thing. Make things easier, more efficient, more convenient, and better for them. Now, it's worse for us because we spend a bunch more money on useless shit we don't need. But it's better for them, more convenient for them. It's more convenient and profitable for a business to fire half its personnel and just install self-checkouts. I'm telling you, they did the math. All that shit came out. I told my wife this stuff way before it ever came out, but all that stuff came out that people were stealing from self-checkout not long after it came out. But as soon as it came out, my wife asked me, why did they do that? People are going to start stealing. And I told her, yeah, they ran the math years ago. They've been looking at doing this for years, and they figured that they could fire X amount of percent of their workforce, and that they were going to get X amount of percent of their goods stolen, and they made more money by installing self-checkout and letting the goods be stolen because they got to fire all that workforce. That it was just bottom line X's and O's. It's math. And that's why they did it. If you think for a second that these big chain stores did not know that people were going to start stealing at self-checkout, you're lost. They knew beforehand, and they pulled the trigger on it anyway because it would help their bottom line and hurt. I don't know how many people lost their jobs over self-checkout since that stuff started being implemented. How many people, lost some economic stability because of that. But these big chain stores, they made more money. So, and it's the same thing on the global scale. The exact same thing. They don't care. They just don't care. They're removed from us. They don't, the Walton family, they're not concerned with day-to-day bills. They don't know what, we're like ants on the ground to them. They're employees. They're like ants. Who cares if a few ants get swept off by the broom? I want the floor clean. That's what we're looking at. So, yeah, from our perspective, it is pure diabolical evil, because that is the disregard for the next human being, for their life, for their happiness, for their freedom, is evil. So, but from their point of view, it's not. It's not evil. They're just doing what they need to do. The number one, they've been taught since they were born that the number one thing in life is this business. Those Walton people, that family that owns the Walmart, their father created Walmart, and they grew up in that. They grew up with their father devoting his entire life to that store. They probably had to go to that store to see their father. That was the most important thing in his life. So that's how they grew up. Everything else was secondary. When you grow up like that as a little kid and you grow up into that, you can't be surprised when they install self-checkout and fire 20, 30, 40, 50, 150, I don't know how many thousands of people lost their job due to self-checkout. So yeah, they are evil. From our point of view, they're absolutely evil. And that's the worst thing about capitalism, is that it's been manipulated and twisted, and now it's some kind of elite oligarchy. It's actually not capitalism anymore. And that's the worst thing about capitalism, is that in a free society, is that people are free to twist it and abuse it and turn it into something else, because we don't have capitalism anymore with all these big monopolies and all this stuff. But it just goes all the way up the chain, and everything's intertwined. They've got their threads and their tentacles down through governments and companies They use companies to influence governments and governments to influence companies and both to influence other governments. So that's what we're against. We aren't against a pure demonic evil, in my opinion. We're against people who just don't give a shit and think we're cattle or ants. And that's evil enough. And I'll leave you there with that. If you want to become a member of Gen X Thinks, I'll leave that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member from there. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate those of you who do either one of those. Thank you very much. If you're interested in Gen X gear, you can head over to Redbubble and check that stuff out over there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, all kinds of cool stuff over there. I think they're having a sale over there now, so it'd be a good time to go check it out. But I'll leave that link down in the description too. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. Thank you very much for those of you who do that. I sincerely appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments, or you can email us in the emails over on the channel page. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.